Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz bassist Kevin Ray of the group East Access. We dug into the new 2023 album No Subject with this adventurous improvising quartet, also featuring pianist Matthew Shipp and bassist Kevin Ray, drummer Gerald Cleaver, and a new addition in Scott Robinson on the sax and reeds. It's their second album via Mack Avenue Music and Brother Mishra Productions. We get into this project, COVID living, the future, and so much more. Enjoy.
Well, hey, Kevin, thank you on behalf of East Access for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad to be here.
So before we get into No Subject, I want to begin with the COVID world that musicians had to deal with for the last 3 years. And I'm wondering how you survived that time period and how it's changed the way that you go about things now that the world's opened up and we're kind of getting into a new phase of life.
Wow. I'm kind of a weird person to ask that because I got through it much like everybody else did, which was basically isolating. I was, I watched a lot of TV. I had a partner at the time. My girlfriend was staying with me, and we watched a lot of TV, went along walks, and tried to support local restaurants as much as we could and shop groceries. But then I was really looking forward to reopening in late 21, and it turned out that was kind of a false reopening, But in late 21, around September 21, I was looking forward to it reopening, to going out and doing things again, mostly outdoors and everything like that. But I woke up one morning with a type AB aortic dissection. So that was another 6 months of recovery for me. And it was only about April or May that I got back on my, April or May of 2022 that I got back on my feet from that. And it's been kind of weird ever since. I mean, I feel fine. I've totally recovered. I still feel disoriented, which I gather a lot of people do, whether they went through that or not. It's like everyone seems to be a little out of it. There's not as much music as there was. I'm hoping that, as spring hits, things will pick up again. But I think it's weird for everybody, even the folks that deny that it was ever really a problem. And there's that aspect too, the whole political aspect of everything. I never knew public health would, I was going to say I never knew public health would be so politicized. I guess, actually, if you look back through history, it's always politicized.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I get what you're saying. So it has to feel good now with spring close, new album, live shows, things picking up. How does this release feel for you?
It feels good. It's gotten some nice attention. It's gotten a lot of great radio play. One thing that's been lacking is we haven't really been able to tour behind it. And again, I think it's due to COVID. There's a 2-year backlog of bookings. Anytime I reach out to people, they're like, yeah, we're interested. Can you do late 24? And, that sort of thing. So it's been interesting because, like I say, we're getting a lot of great radio play and we're getting great reviews, but we only have one gig in the book so far this year.
Talk to me a little bit about the cast that's on this, the cast that you collaborated with, and what kind of the vision of this project and this album, what was it?
Well, it actually started in a fairly mundane way. Matt Shipp and I used to play and record a lot with Alan Lowe, the original saxophonist on this project. And he and I were talking about Gerald Cleaver and how much we admire him. But I mentioned that I had never actually worked with Gerald. And Matt was kind of like, oh, you're kidding. We need to start a band. And that was actually how that happened. And we invited Alan to join us, and he did a great job, but chose to leave after the first album. And Scott is a different flavor entirely. It's kind of fascinating because Matt and Gerald and I lock up, I think, quite well. Yet you put a different saxophonist with us, we go in a completely different direction. And Alan was a wonderful saxophonist, but it's almost like we would lay down a tapestry for him or a cushion for him, and he would float above it. So we would kind of lock in and do our grooves, and Alan would comment on them musically or just, kind of ride the waves. Whereas Scott just kind of jumps right in the middle and causes a big splash, and it actually causes us to change it. It was disruptive, but in the best possible way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Well, let's get to the essence and the root of you and your lineage in this band. Let's go back to where you were born and raised and how these seeds of jazz got into you, maybe some influences and things that made you who you are today.
Well, it's been fairly circuitous, to be honest with you. I was born in eastern Oklahoma, and I moved many times as a kid, and ended up, like the longest I spent anywhere was actually Anchorage, Alaska. I ended up, as I was graduating from high school, in eastern Oklahoma again, and kind of wandered around aimlessly. I really didn't pick up music, but I decided, for some reason, I heard some jazz on the radio in Edmond, Oklahoma, and enrolled in their jazz program, as a complete beginner, to be honest with you, which is a little strange. I didn't really, it was hard. Like, the school didn't really know how to deal with a person who'd never even actually picked up the instrument before and had only maybe heard like 5 jazz tunes off the radio. So I wandered around aimlessly, played in cover bands and stuff like that, and then one day saw an article for this new program started at the New School for Social Research in Manhattan by a guy named Arnie Lawrence. And I walked up there, kind of semi-auditioned, kind of semi-talked my way in, and they shoved me into a practice room. They were very good. They knew exactly what to do with me, which was, throw me off into the deep end, shove me into a practice room, and just do my best. And about 3 months into that, I met a great bass player, Reggie Workman, who, for some reason, we just really hit it off, and he took me under his wing, and he's actually been kind of a mentor to me ever since.
So what was the first live jazz show that you ever saw that really made you think either you want more jazz or you want to do this for a living?
Well, that's the interesting thing, is that the first jazz record I ever heard were the Heath Brothers, which, looking back, that's a very fortunate band to have heard, because there's Jimmy and Percy Heath, but there was also Akira Tana, Tony Peroni, and the great pianist who I just adored, Stanley Cowell, who kind of played a huge part of my life throughout the years. But interestingly enough, that record was being played on the radio to advertise a show by them coming up that weekend. So I went, and I even spoke to Percy, I remember, as if I were a bass player. It was very, very nice, but it was interesting.
So in this journey as a musician, with all the aspects that go into it, from making albums to performing live, promoting, everything that goes into it, what is it that you like the best about this process of being a professional musician?
I like playing. I mean, to me, that's the bottom line. Everything we do is so we can play. And I love playing with these guys. I mean, it's kind of amazing when we perform. An hour can go by so quickly. You have no idea. And the twists and turns that we take each other through. And I love playing with Gerald. I mean, it turns out Matt was right. We should play together. Gerald always goes in 3 or 4 different directions at once, which leaves you, just a myriad of ways to go. And, you try to do your own path, but reflect on him. And I've noticed recently, you probably heard on the album that occasionally he and I will imply or maybe just lightly jump into a swing field, but it'll be gone before you know it. And it's getting to the point where live, we might actually swing a beat or 2 beats and then drift back off. And it's just kind of interesting that it feels like we're always constantly glancing off of each other and intersecting and things like that. It's really quite a nice feeling.
So on this album, what are you hoping the listener gets from this?
I think a lot of it is that I'm flattered by the number of knowledgeable reviewers who don't seem to realize that this is free jazz. This is completely free improv. Our discussions of the music are such as, let's do a short one. Let's do a fast one. Maybe we should do this one as a trio piece. And that's basically it. There's no, and then we spend a few days afterwards. We recorded this over 2 days, so we spent a few days afterwards picking out which tracks we do. We don't edit. We just pick the best ones, and then we sequence the thing. We named them with a very random process. So getting back to your original question, sorry to get so far afield, free jazz is 60 years old, and yet somehow people are still terrified about it. And it makes sense because like any genre and any art form in the wrong hands, it can be self-indulgent, it can be long-winded, it can be incoherent. And I feel like art of any sort should tell a story. You may not agree what the story is, and it may tell a different story to you than is even told to the artist. But there should be a point A to point. There should be some coherency to it. You should be able to detect a logical thought. And I hope, again, that people enjoy this, but they realize that, free improv is just another way of creating music. And it tells a story just as good as playing through changes or something that's completely through composed or any other aspect. And it's not all, and by the way, cacophony is not bad. I mean, something I learned early on is that, beauty is not synonymous with prettiness. And cacophony has its place, and I love that stuff. But it's not all that. It's not all anything. It's just another way to hopefully create beauty. And so I hope that they're challenged by it, but I hope it also kind of opens their mind and ears to the folks that still don't like Cecil Taylor or Annette Coleman or folks like that, and realize, hey, they were right next door to Duke Ellington.
So let me ask you this. If you could get into a jazz DeLorean time machine, so to speak, and go back in time and see any performer anywhere, where are you going? Who do you want to see?
Well, if I could go to one time, can I pick 3 artists?
Sure.
All right. Mid to late 60s, obviously Coltrane, and that Miles Quintet, and Cecil Taylor with Andrew Surreal and Henry Grimes and those folks. When Henry Grimes came back, he played some stuff on the radio by Cecil Taylor, that group. That was just absolutely amazing. I mean, it sounded a lot like the Miles Davis Quintet at the same time. And that's my point. It's like these are 2 different ways to end up coming to the same point a lot.
So why do you love jazz?
I have no idea. I've actually never really thought of it. I do. I mean, I obviously, well, that's another thing that even when I'm playing free, and I hope this comes across in this album, it definitely came across in the first album, but I hope it comes across in this album too. We are a rhythm section. We are a jazz rhythm section. And even when it doesn't swing, it does swing. And I like that. I know this radio, but I can't think of another way to put it. It's like I'm a bass player, and I'm part of a rhythm section. And no matter how abstract we get, I hope that you have to move your ass too.
Kevin, everyone out there has a perception of you, your family, your friends, fans, that you ultimately live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, I guess this takes us full circle. Post-COVID, I have no idea. I hope I'm kind, and I hope I have an open mind, and I hope I haven't become rigid and static over the past couple of years, which worries me. So at this point, no, I have no idea.
So if anyone out there wants to get their hands on the brand new East Access album, No Subject, find out about live shows, anything regarding you or the band, where can they go?
We have a Facebook page, East Access Jazz. We're on Instagram, and we do that pretty well. If you want to buy the album, go to the Mack Avenue website, or Bandcamp. But yeah, you could reach out to us. We have contact information on Facebook.
Yeah, right on. Kevin, it's great to open up a little bit of the box into the band a little bit more. Thank you for opening up about the album and your life in music. Best of luck with everything as we go forward.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Kevin for his time, energy, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, you can find Neon Jazz Archives out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.